Welcome to Decision Modeling and Analysis. My name is Jeff Stonebreaker, and today's agenda will talk about what's involved in this course, talk about the syllabus, course objectives and content. I'll describe who I am and also elicit who you are. Course materials. The textbook Decision Analysis for Professional is available either as a third or fourth edition. The publisher is SmartOrg, who's a consulting firm, or if you want to, you can get a download PDF file available through SmartOrg. In fact, John Salona has recommended that. He's one of the authors of this text, and both he and Peter McNamee are longtime consultants in decision analysis, so this book really appeals to me because it comes from a consulting perspective. Also required is DPL-8. It's software by Syncopation Software Company, and we have a department site license, so later on in the term I'll send out instructions on how you can download that. And all the materials will be posted on Moodle. Course learning objectives. By the end of the course, you should be able to identify and frame key issues of decisions. The issues include the alternatives, options, what you can do, the uncertainty involved in the decision, and then what's the values or the value proposition or what you want. You also learn how to create doable alternatives, and you'll learn how to obtain decision-relevant information in an unbiased manner, and defining values and trade-offs. And step 5, the fifth objective, is you will analyze and evaluate and compare each alternative. And then lastly, you'll present a cogent case to gain commitment to action. If you don't do that, you can do some great analysis and modeling, but if you don't present a case that's compelling, you won't have any action. And this course will also improve your decision making, and of course your modeling and analytical skills and then Excel skills. The assessment is by 3 different vehicles: problem sets and labs, worth 10% of the grade. Midterm exam is worth 40%, and the final exam 50%. The final exam will be an application, and it will be a case study rather than fill in the exam type questions. I'm encouraging you to collaborate with other students on the problem sets and also the labs, and these labs and problem sets are designed to reinforce the material we talk about in class. And the answers to both the problem sets and labs will be posted on Moodle so you can check your work. The exams, however, are individual work only and no collaboration allowed. The grades are shown here, so 90 to 100% is an A, and so on and so forth. The schedule, I've broken up the schedule as a Tuesday through the following Monday schedule. So the idea here is Tuesday hopefully you'll start looking at the material, watching the videos, start working the problem sets or labs, and by Monday you should have everything completed and bringing questions to me if you have questions. It gives you the weekend if you need the weekend to work on the problem sets and the labs. So week 1 is May 20th through 26th. It's an overview of decision analysis. It's kind of a general introduction to decision analysis. A lot of stuff we're going to learn kind of carries forward throughout the course. Week 2 is talking about uncertainty. And as I tell my students, uncertainty is your friend. Without uncertainty, really, decision analysis doesn't even need to exist because you have to have uncertainty. And thankfully, maybe that's not thankfully, but most decisions that we face or our company faces or our client will face are things happening in the future. So there's lots of uncertainty. Week 3 is looking at decisions under uncertainty. So now we're going to bring the decisions along with the uncertainty. And then week 4, we're starting to bring in the financial perspective. And the realistic problems require us to look at a cash flow over time, typically in business decisions. So we're looking at net present value, what we would call expected net present value. We're going to include the probability, the different outcomes or scenarios that can happen, and associated probabilities with that. Week 5, we'll talk about values of information and control and what they mean and what's their utility, what's their value of them. Week 6, we'll talk about risk attitude. And then week 7 we'll cover all the material up to their weeks 1 through 6 and the midterm exam. And week 8 and 9 we're switching gears to more realistic problems. So now we're going to be very involved in the Excel-based modeling, and I'll provide you with kind of the approach I've used over the years and how I set up my spreadsheet models, and will hopefully, it's not the best practice necessarily. It's at least practice that's worked for me. Week 10, we'll talk about the decision analysis cycle, which looks at, I guess there's 4 major systematic steps. One is basis development, the basis being the alternatives, the uncertainties, and the values that you have with each decision that you're looking at or evaluating. And so it's developing that information for your decision, very useful in business decisions and your own decisions. And then the next step is deterministic structuring, which is a fancy way of saying you're going to build an Excel model and look at the not really including much uncertainty or including uncertainty in it. And then the probabilistic evaluation is where you start collecting probabilities on some of the key uncertainties. And then step 4 is where you appraise that basis, the alternatives, the uncertainty, and the values, and provide that cogent argument. And then week 11 is our final exam. Once again, it's a case study, and this is, I guess, the 29th through the 1st of August is the last day for the final exam period. Who am I? I have a PhD, and we'll talk about that, from Arizona State. And then I can be, my office is in Nelson Hall, where the Poole College of Management is, in room 2306. And the best way to get a hold of me is through email. I respond fairly quickly. So if you have questions, do not hesitate to contact me either anytime in the course, and I can help you. I've seen most of the issues with using Excel and DPL, so in fact I can claim that there hasn't been a problem I haven't been able to figure out with using that, because I've been using DPL for a couple decades. And then also I'm going to provide a little background of myself, my work experience, and my family. So my background, it started off in, I guess I have an electrical engineering degree, bachelor's from the University of South Florida, and then I joined the Air Force. I spent 15 years in the Air Force and retired from the Air Force, early retired, and I had 2 tours of duty teaching at the Air Force Academy in the math department, where they sponsored me for a master's degree at Stanford in engineering economic systems, and then a PhD at Arizona State in the College of Business. This bullseye here, it really, the dartboard signifies my experience initially in the Air Force as a young second lieutenant, and then watching how my senior leaders were making decisions and really not understanding their rationale. It could have been very rational, but from my perspective, it didn't look like it. It looked like a dartboard where you would partition. If you had 3 alternatives, you partition your dartboard into 3 partitions, and then throw a dart at it and find out which of the alternatives you would go for. Excuse me. But that was, like I said, what I observed. But the beauty of it is it really motivated me to say, or to start thinking, well, how do we make decisions? Is there a good way, a best way to make decisions? Which led me to operations research / management science, which led me to decision analysis, which led me to going to Stanford University and taking courses from a professor there who coined the term decision analysis. His name is Ron Howard, not to be confused with Opie from Mayberry RFD, but MIT PhD, very smart man. And so he was the founder of the field of decision analysis. After I left the Air Force, early retired, I worked for a consulting company called Applied Decision Analysis, where I traveled essentially from Menlo Park, California to back east. And one of my clients I worked with was the New York Power Authority, and we did a project with them where we were helping them determine when they should turn off their system and replace the nuclear fuel rods. And their objectives, there are 2 objectives. One was to minimize the cost to do that, and also maximize the fish protection, the environmental objective on that. So cost and environmental concerns. And we published a paper on that, and I can provide that if that's intriguing to you. Let's see. Then I did that for not even a year, and I just didn't like the traveling. So I ended up going to work for a biological company, a biotech company called Bayer Biological Products in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina. I did that for about 5 years, and then also did the same thing at GlaxoSmithKline. So I went from a kind of a biotech environment to a big pharma environment, and cut my teeth on using decision analysis in these industries, and primarily was involved with working with cross-functional teams and getting information from these cross-functional teams in the medical fields, profession, the scientists, the engineers, the production people, the marketing people, and working with them to come up with models, decision models, to represent the technical feasibility and the commercial viability of the different projects that were in the portfolio that they were considering. Should we work on this one, or we don't have all the money in the world, so we need to prioritize in our portfolio of projects which ones we want to work on. That was for 10 years. And then University of Denver, the idea, what happened there was teaching at the Air Force Academy was I just enjoyed teaching so much in the math department that I wanted to go back and teach. So it took me essentially 10 years to find a teaching job. And so we left the Research Triangle area to go work at the University of Denver. I was there for a couple years. We were there for a couple years, and then I had an opportunity to come back. And we jumped on that, and now here I am at North Carolina State. I was introduced to decision analysis over 25 years ago at Stanford initially, and then I've been applying it for business, in the business context with companies, and then also personally using decision analysis. What I do now is I've taught this decision modeling analysis course. This is the 7th time I've taught it. Actually, this is the 8th time. I've taught it 7 times right now. And I do a lot of research in decision analysis, and primarily in demand modeling for looking at diseases, hemophilia. I've spent a lot of time, a lot of papers published in that, and also production capacity planning. And then this last quote is a quote from a lady when I worked at GlaxoSmithKline. They were determining, and I was helping them determine if they should launch a new product in AIDS. And so they had just completed a marketing research study, and I'm guessing they spent a couple $100,000 on this, couple 100-page report that was occupying someone's file cabinet. And so we took that information, and we actually were able to use quite a bit of it, and found the relevancy to the decision, should they launch this new product or not in AIDS. And so her comment was, this decision analysis makes her marketing research report actionable. Otherwise, it just collects dust a lot of times. So that was a very insightful, profound truism, I thought, and I just really like that quote from her. My family, let me just explain who I am. I'll look at the top picture. From left to right is my daughter Tori, who is 8 years old and 2nd grade, and she goes to Cary Christian School, and then I'm next in line there. And then Joshua is our 5-year-old who's going to attend kindergarten next year at Cary Christian. My beautiful bride Kimberly, and then Abby, my oldest, who's 10, and she's in 5th grade at Cary Christian School. What I would like for you to do next is to answer some questions. I have this it's called Student Introductions. It's a Word document that's posted on Moodle, and I'd like to have you go through this and then send it back to me. I find these to be very valuable to help me understand who you are. In fact, it's interesting, when I taught the Air Force Academy, I was teaching a student there, and I had gone back to Colorado Springs, which is where the Air Force Academy is, and after I was at University of Denver, and we went down to Colorado Springs, and one of my former students was now on faculty in the math department. He had a PhD, he had a family, and it was pretty cool because I still had his "Who are you?" form, and I was at least a similar form, and I was able to make a copy of it and hand it to him, and he was just amazed, and that I probably kept it, and then also just the fact that how his life has evolved, or how it's changed over time, and how many of his goals have been accomplished or not, and so I thought that was just really rewarding. So I use these, and who knows, maybe someday I'll use this when we're colleagues somewhere or whatever. So please fill that out and then send it to me. Email is probably the best way, or you can post it on Moodle.